this debt, this destruction.
Global news impacts us.
We have to change the way we live.
This is why we need independent media.
No,
hey
I'm
everyone,
not.
this is Kit
right
Cabello
quick.
with Hard Lens Media. Welcome to our Wednesday show. I'm joined today with Daniel Upker, manning the board and none other than our tech priest insincere phase. And joining us here is the wonderful, incredible Kira McCown, but I think her internet's frozen.
I just switched internets right as we were coming on. So
Okay, great.
Yeah,
so we got Kira. Kira, let's make sure that people still see it. There you go. We got Kira here with us. All right, awesome. And I'm seeing everyone else here joining us as well. We got a Biden it up.
Just Biden day. Like so much is going wrong so often.
Yeah. So today's episode is dedicated to Joe 30330. But also before we get started with our show, I want to give a special shout out to our Patreon supporters because our Patreon supporters are the main heart and backbone of what we do here. If you want to be a Patreon supporter, that link is in the description box below. Shout out to Gray Walker, Join Third Party, Cheryl Short, Madeline Alfonso, Emma Beveridge, Angie C, Tanya Bosley, Echo the Cat, Christoph, Serial Caller, Terry Elliott, and Leah Neely. You are honorary Patreon supporters. And again, thank you so much for being a Patreon supporter. We're only asking for a $1 donation so we get to our $2,000 per month goal so we can maintain our studio, update our gear and equipment, and work on future projects. Also, real quick, we also did a short live stream on our Rockfin channel. We're getting close to 1,100 subscribers. If we get to 2,500 subscribers, we're going to do a Friday show at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's when we do our live stream on Rockfin every Monday and Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. Be sure to also subscribe to Chicago Reacts. But with that being said,
I just want to add on, just because it doesn't make sense to talk about during the Patreon show, so I'll say it now. I was trying to upgrade the buzzer right before the show started. Didn't work.
so Daniel, you broke the buzzer.
I did. I mean, I'm not taking responsibility, but it was my fault.
Yes, so there we go. So with that being said, everybody, I'm happy to start off our show with What is for Brunch? Oh, what is for brunch? What is for brunch? What is for brunch?
Woo!
And apparently, apparently, the media says Americans want what Joe Biden has, and says, "Hey, keep what we got." Obamacare, also known as Romney Care, which was created by the Heritage Foundation. So yeah, huge shout out to Case Study QB. Be sure to follow him on Twitter. We got a lot of videos that he has uploaded, and I think it's very important that we share this. So let's play this first video.
Democratic groups going after President-elect Joe Biden's picks for his administration, saying his list of potential staff and cabinet appointments is not progressive enough. Let's bring in our panel. Guy Benson is the host of The Guy Benson Show and a Fox News contributor, and Leslie Marshall, also a Fox News contributor. Welcome to you both. At issue here, Guy, are two men. One, Steve Ricchetti, who is a former lobbyist for pharmaceutical industry, does not believe in Medicare for all. The other is Cedric Richmond. He is a recipient of fossil fuel money. Both are getting pushback. Justice for Democrats writes the following, quoting here, "A Biden administration dominated by corporate-friendly insiders will not help usher in the most progressive Democratic administration in generations. Progressives find corporate-friendly Biden appointments unacceptable." And the pressure is now rising. Guy, your thoughts?
Well, I don't typically eat popcorn for breakfast, but this is already quite entertaining to me, and I look forward to hearing from Leslie because this is her party and the mess that they've got right now. And the whining has already begun. We haven't even gotten into cabinet picks yet, and you have these Justice Democrats who are trying to call the shots in an administration that they fought tooth and nail, at least the candidate at the top of the ticket, during the primary, and they've made all their threats, right? But this is not who got Joe Biden the nomination or elected. They helped him in the general, of course, but they're saying, oh, look, this person's a moderate. This person opposed Medicare for all. Well, that sounds like the campaign Joe Biden ran. I suspect the Justice Democrats and these left-wingers assumed they'd have a lot more leverage with big Democratic majorities in the House and Senate. But oops, it looks like that majority is going to be razor thin in the House and may not exist at all in the Senate should Republicans get the job done down in Georgia. So we'll see.
Leslie, the key word he used there is leverage. How much leverage do progressives have going forward?
Well, look, there is a lot of thought out there, Trace, that the Justice Democrats and the quote, radical leftist faction of my party and the Democratic Party actually cost seats, and that the majority that was very much enjoyed prior to this election and we won't have going forward, it is a result of some of these very...
Okay, let's play that next video real quick.
By the way, I gotta love that. Like, there's millions of older people, mainly in nursing homes, who the TV is either turned on MSN 24/7 or Fox 24/7. But especially the Fox that are so convinced that Joe Biden ever wanted to do Medicare for all. It's very funny.
Right, exactly. Let's play that next video.
Progressive policies. The reality is that Justice Democrats actually flipped one House seat in this election. They don't have the power, not just because of the slim majority, but really when you have the squad and then one, it's not the 97 that they would claim that they have on their website. At the end of the day, Joe Biden has always said he is not in favor of Medicare for all. And the majority of Americans want what Joe Biden wants, and the majority of Democrats, which is to keep the insurance they have, to expand on Obamacare.
Have they read polls that they cared so much about?
That's what
just the ones they agree with
going forward. And I also would say these are two appointments that they don't like. Hang on, because you never know if Elizabeth Warren becomes Treasury Secretary or Bernie Sanders becomes Labor Secretary, and that would appease, at least for a little while, the progressive left.
And Leslie, what she says, just as Democrats echo what she's saying, they believe that half of the Democratic caucus in the House is made up of progressives, 100 members, and she says it's not true. But just as Democrats goes on to write the following here, Guy, if Joe Biden continues making corporate-friendly appointments to his White House, he will risk quickly fracturing the hard-earned goodwill his team built with progressives to defeat Donald Trump. Sounds like they think they have more, according to what Leslie's saying, they believe they have more influence than they actually have, or do they have more influence?
Okay.
Well, look, if they decide to make Nancy
continue playing. We got still a few more seconds to hear these.
Pelosi and Joe Biden's job a lot harder by voting no on things that the leadership wants them to pass, then they could cause some headaches, right? They do have some leverage here, but I think they should keep those threats going, and I think party unity in the garbage can for Democrats would be a great development.
Last word for you, Leslie?
Thanks, guys. Such a positive note. Love you. No, the fragmentation is terrible. Joe Biden has a message of unity for the nation and the people in my party, whether you're on the far left, in the center, or even right of center, have to realize that. Otherwise, we're going to have this same nightmare, if you will, 4 years from now.
Leslie Marshall, Guy Benson, thank you both.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. Real quick, again, this is Fox News we're talking about, so they live in their own conservative bubble, and again, they have their own biases. But this whole idea that the Democrats are socialists or communists, wake up. They're just as conservative and just as pro-capitalist as the RNC establishment. The very fact that, again, this narrative has successfully been passed by CNN and MSNBC to Fox News, saying that progressives didn't help out at all. I just can't help but think of all the progressive groups and organizations, as soon as Bernie Sanders was done, quickly flock around to the vote blue no matter who mantra and start promoting Joe Biden. Were it not for the groundwork of some of these progressives and independent organizations and voters, Biden would not be able to have the leverage that he had. But then again, if you look at certain states in which Biden turned away from Trump, it was by the bare minimum, if were it not for people turning out to vote against Donald Trump. Number two, Justice Democrats. Your dumbest mistake was actually having that little fracturing with Cenk Uygur and Kyle Kulinski a long time ago, because, now more than ever, you need people to go to bat for you, and CNN and MSNBC and the Democratic Party are never going to do that for you, because now that these progressive organizations, voters, and yes, even progressive YouTube channels gave up, their power to vote for Biden, the Democrats' response is they're not going to listen to progressive voters or independents. This whole idea that progressives do have power over Biden is a myth, but this warning call from progressives and independents is very true, because people can only take so much abuse. Again, the Biden administration is putting extreme centrists within his administration. So you got corporatists, lobby groups, Wall Street executives, Republican politicians, and people who made a career in Washington, D.C., all part of Biden's administration. Nothing has fundamentally changed. We got to live in a world of reality, and the real reality is this, and that is we need a people's party. We need a real third party that's going to stand up against the DNC and RNC. We cannot rely on these politicians because the Democrats are going to make the same mistake again, and we're going to be probably right back to where we started from in 2024 with maybe somebody like Trump or Donald Trump running again for another election. Because if nothing fundamentally changes, like we have said in this show, if everyone goes to brunch, we're going to have the same problems. The very people who helped create this system are now in power. And this system is what gave us Donald Trump in the first place. And you have these corporate media pundits saying, oh, progressives and independents don't have any leverage. Have you not been paying attention to the Bernie Sanders rallies that happened in 2016 and in 2020? They were large rallies. And here's the thing. Have you forgotten the polls where Republican voters, hold on, let me clear my throat out again. Republican voters, Democratic voters, independent voters all agree on one thing. Well, actually a couple of things, really. Medicare for all. We're the only country that doesn't have Medicare for all. And yet, look, this virus, again, 250,000 Americans have just died from this damn virus. And, you know, a lot of Americans who are recovering are walking out of hospitals with $100K in debt or $1 million in debt because of these ridiculous healthcare system that we have here. We're the only developed country, a first world nation, that doesn't have healthcare for all, Medicare for all, single payer healthcare. We don't have any of it. These pundits live in their own reality, and so does the DNC establishment. So what's for brunch? We're going to get somebody worse than Donald Trump in 2024, or Trump's going to run again if nothing fundamentally changes. Daniel, Kira, weigh in on this.
So it's crazy watching all of this because we saw that Trump lost the election because of the pandemic. I think it's very fair to say that if there was no pandemic, Trump would have won re-election. Now, at the same time, the same things and the same principles apply to Biden. If Biden's entire point continues to be, I'm a center-right person, definitely not extreme centrist. I believe where the country's at, even though he doesn't, and he's ignoring all the polls. And every time that they say on TV that Medicare for all is this lefty thing, it's a centrist thing. It's a centrist thing.
Extreme
it is
centrist.
It's a centrist thing.
Wait, sorry, yes.
Kit's undermining my point in real time. Look at that. So Joe Biden is about to walk into the depression side of the virus. Because everything's blocked up. The only reason 10% of people aren't on the street already is because there's a virus and people are putting out things for health reasons and whatnot. But when that bill comes due and a bunch of people starting January 1st, and I'm not confident Trump will extend it because he's leaving in 20 days at that point, right then, all the paperwork that landlords have been waiting on is done. All the legal parts have been done. What is Biden going to do when America is homeless? What is Biden going to do when no one's employed because the economy goes down because 10% of its citizens don't live in homes anymore? What's going to happen when you get a college degree and there are no jobs to go to, and now you have a $300, $500, $700 a month bill to pay plus your other bills to pay? We've already seen the just explosion of people that are, you know, my age, Kit's age, Kira's age, Faze's age. Yes, he does have an age. That are living with their parents because of not having a job, debt. So Biden can be a terrible person about this all he wants and feed the people that fed him. It's going to help him out about as much as did Trump.
Kira, what's the final word?
Yeah, you know, I think the woman pundit here in this makes kind of a good point, and I'm going to take her point a little further. The progressives don't have any leverage because this isn't the progressives' party, right? They're in the wrong party, you know, and so here we are, you know, trying to actually budge a party that is center right. And it's just not going to happen. And, you know, not to mention so much of what we're watching when we watch these kinds of shows, they are living in a completely different world than we live in. And so it's like, you know, one of the things the male pundit mentioned was basically that progressives did nothing to get Joe Biden the nomination, which again, he's completely right on. What got Joe Biden the Democratic nomination was a bunch of backroom dealing. And then, by Obama going around and telling everybody, hey, drop out before Super Tuesday. We're going to make sure to all back Biden. And, the person who was actually leading in the Democratic primaries then got completely overtaken by this extreme centrism that we're seeing. So, he's totally right, and it's futile for us to continue banging our heads against this like Democratic Party wall saying like, let us in, give us some leverage. We saw this coming a mile away, and I would poop myself if he actually put somebody progressive into any of his cabinet spaces or into any part of his administration. On the other side of things, and something that they didn't mention, which I think is a little bit unfair, and, politics is unfair, is that while progressives did nothing to actually get Joe Biden the nomination, I do believe progressives pushed very hard to get him the election. And, even if you watch the Movement for the People's Party, live cast or whatever you want to call it. I don't know what it's called. You saw a vast majority of the speakers saying even in that, like, hey, let's support Joe Biden in this, and then we'll push for the Movement for the People's Party. So some of the things on this, yeah, they're dead right on, but they're just not taking it to that next step of like, but the progressives are actually in the wrong party, and there needs to at least be one more party, if not several more, which I know that we're constantly pushing on this show. And then the other piece, because I never watch mainstream media, I only watch what you guys send out from Case Study QB. And so every time I do, I find myself being like, oh crap, like, was I wrong on all that polling that I read about Americans wanting Medicare for all? And so I always go back and I like recheck myself, and I was like, nope, it's still the same. We're 69% of Americans support Medicare for all, and 88% of Democrats support Medicare for all. It's really interesting the way they cherry pick, the polls that they want to be sharing. And through that cherry picking, what I'm seeing them doing is creating just a whole other alternate reality, which has been going on for some time. I don't think I'm saying anything nobody already knows.
So I just want to say it's very crazy that we live in an existence where like them cherry picking data is probably the most optimistic and the kindest way to put what it's very, they're building their own narrative. They're propagandists. They're the extreme center. We're asking what's it look like to be in that room. It's very extreme. It's very central. And it's very fun if you have $1 million or more, but if you don't, it's not that fun and not that great and not that center. So again, we are living in a interesting time, a time where we are I think the solution is moving much more and more towards starting a third party that is seeming to be the more reasonable way to go. Although I will say I still like it when people take centrist Democrats out of their seats. Mm-hmm. Although I would ask perhaps going forward that we learn from the lessons of AOC, who hasn't been able to get that far. But it's, obviously on one side, I know people will be saying, yeah, because she's on her own. And then from the other side saying she sold out. Don't care about either of those two extremes. Structurally, you can't get anything done within the Democratic Party, even if you try. So we should be asking people running in the Democratic Party when they get in to just be as loud as possible and be a whistleblower as well as a congressperson, because most of their job will have to be being a whistleblower, being someone that calls out this, like I think we remember a little bit of AOC doing, being antagonistic towards the party, taking away the reputation of the party, threatening to leave the party, doing all these things so that we can put a new party in place and we can get laws and then we can build our own leverage. But I also think that we should still be doing everything we can to undermine the party at this point. I think we all agree at this point there's no real money in trying to take over the party because the rules that are in place are bent and broken on a whim.
So moving for People's Party, I'm curious to see what they're going to do, build infrastructure, and learn from the lessons from the failures of the Justice Democrats' brand new Congress and our revolution. And look, I know that there's probably some good people in those organizations, but you can't reform the DNC. So moving for People's Party, keep pushing forward. And I'm going to be covering what you guys are going to be doing, and I'm curious what further developments will happen. But with that being said, again, so grateful to see all of you joining our live stream show. We're going to move on to our next story. Shout out to everyone that is joining us as well. Shout out to the wonderful, incredible Mona Carmona, who's also moderating our live stream chat. Kira, you have a story for the people. What is going on? Oh,
That's going on. Okay.
Kira.
Whenever you're ready for your story.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you just fine.
Because I cannot hear you.
Okay, we're gonna hand it over to Dan.
I don't know what's going on.
Okay,
Man, okay,
right.
guys, this is our chance to say anything we need to Kira right now.
Kira, you're the best. Daniel, we'll then move on to you. You got a story for the people. What is going on?
Okay, so we got a clip from our.
I can hear you on the live stream here.
Okay.
Oh, that timed out perfectly.
Okay, perfect. All right, so Daniel. Okay, we're gonna move to Daniel's story, and then we'll go to Kira then next.
Sounds good. Okay. So, okay, let's talk about this. We have a great story from our good friend, personal friend, a guy we've had over to a few too many barbecues together, Case Study QB. How's that for an intro?
All right, yeah, all right. Case Study QB. Shout out to him. Follow him on Twitter.
This was a very interesting exchange, and I was very interested to see that they let this sort of an expert who talked this way on TV.
All right,
let's talk about it. Let's go watch it first.
The people who won. Look, the only state where you flipped a Republican into a Democrat is in Georgia. Lucy McBath managed to keep her seat. All last week, you had mainstream Democrats and liberal Democrats arguing about defund the police. Lucy McBath is literally a mother of the movement. She ran for office in an Atlanta suburban district because her unarmed son was shot by a white guy in Florida. If she can keep her seat in Atlanta, maybe she's got a message for people. If Georgia is a place where you can flip a Republican seat, maybe they've got a message. I think too many times the people want to listen to the consultant class in the Democratic Party instead of listening to the people who can actually win. And when you listen to the people who've actually won, you tend to be more successful on election day.
Wow. We are much obliged to both of these gentlemen for making time for us tonight. To
That's
Jason
really
Johnson, to John Meacham, our sincere thanks.
And also, I think they need.
All right, so great video.
Yeah, and I just want to say, what's his name again? I keep forgetting his name because I don't care about him as a person or a journalist. The guy that was that got the host again, the guy that lied about being shot at in Iraq.
Oh wow, the name is on the tip of my tongue.
I don't think it matters who he is, but so my surprise was that they had a guy that was like making the point that we made, actually the point AOC made, which was, hey, the progressives are actually the people that held and grew seats. And everyone else, the extreme centrists, they lost them. It's amazing that happened. That's factual information of a thing that factually happened. And mainstream media is like, that didn't happen. No, actually, it was the centrists that did well. And the progressives, they held everyone down. He's making a reasonable point. Hey, this person just won a seat. She had her son killed by the police. Maybe that message resonates. That's why she got elected. And then you hear, was it Brian, whatever his name?
Brian Williams.
You guys are so good to have on. I'm real happy.
That's not how you do
that. You do. I don't care. I'm doing an accurate representation as he would be accurate on something, such as being shot at when he wasn't to get clout. So this is hysterical. That guy's not going to be back on, I would assume, or he's going to be back on less frequently, or he's connected to someone that he can get back on again. But it's absurd that we live in a world where someone saying the obvious, factually backed statement is a threat that we can say, oh, they're not going to be back on TV all that often now, will they? It's a reasonable thing to point out that progressives win.
Yep.
And they do well. People like their policy because it's a centrist policy that they like. Police accountability. Most people think that's good. Medicare for all, most people think that's good.
Agreed.
UBI, many people think that's good. Green New Deal, most people think that's good. Except if you're an extreme centrist and you live in a bubble and you only live on a television as a television anchor, a television pundit, or in the White House or living near there for those purposes. This is weird stuff. I'm surprised that Snopes hasn't come out and said this is a mostly false statement at some point.
So I want to give a shout out to some people in the live stream chat.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, this guy, Jason Johnson, was let go for about 5 months this year for anti-Bernie rhetoric, actually. So I'm actually kind of surprised that he was the one who mentioned this, because he basically said that Sanders supporters were racist white liberals back in February.
And that,
yes, we did.
He called Nina Turner and Brianna Joy Gray people from the island of misfit black girls.
Wow.
I remember that now.
Yeah. So when I saw this guy, I was like, Jason Johnson, that guy sounds familiar. I'm going to look into him. And, just a little bit of digging. I'm like, that's so interesting. I don't, and what he said in that clip was surprisingly accurate in especially inside of the inaccurate conversations I feel like we're having these days about how progressives don't win elections. But yeah, he's usually, I think, one of those more extreme centrist fellas. So
I think in many ways what we're seeing here is
maybe that 5 months away from the bubble is all you need.
Yeah.
This is a prescription we can give to people.
Yeah, but see, there is a fundamental problem, because the thing is, when you have people like that who call Nina Turner and Brianna Joy, again, saying that they're on an island of misfit black girls, which is what he said. You have someone then that people will flock to, because a lot of people who are questioning the Democrats will then flock to the very same people that were derailing the Bernie Sanders campaign, or progressives or independents. And corporate media is going to try and control the narrative. Look, I did a Rockfin show earlier today talking about how the internet's going to want, or how people in the establishment want gatekeepers to control information, and those that are going to be presenting themselves as an alternative, especially on corporate media, beware, because they have close ties to corporate media. And occasionally here and there, you might hear one of these pundits or these talking heads make an interesting point. But just because they're correct on an issue doesn't mean that they believe in these issues. Corporate media, especially CNN and MSNBC, not Fox, but these media outlets did everything they could to derail the progressive movement and silence progressives. And this is why we need independent media, and why the internet should be a free public utility, and why, more importantly, we need to have real accountability for everyone that's going to be on television. No one should be a gatekeeper. No one should be controlling the information. And I want to give a shout out to Jamaican 347, 687 Sync, as well as Jeremy Chase, for mentioning that pundit that was talking was Brian Williams, the monotone hack fraud that he is.
Oh, yeah, that was his name. That's great.
Yeah, I'm glad we all Brian collectively Williams. Forgot it, because we need to store more important information in our minds.
Yes. So with that being said, Kira, if you could hear us.
90s pop songs, which is what's running around in here all of the time. Yes, I am ready now. Hopefully my audio isn't as bad as it was, because that's largely what I was reading, which is why I started effing with it. And
you
then
shouldn't do that.
Kira, no, this is, you just got to invest in $100 mic and an audio amplifier and phantom power.
Actually,
and we'll be good.
You guys, it's kind of embarrassing, but I did actually invest in some really great headphones. Actually, my company did, so that I can teach classes and have music going, and you can hear me clearly, and all of this fancy stuff. And I've had the earbuds for like 3 weeks now, and I still haven't done anything with them. I haven't set them up. I haven't even tried them. I know.
Hashtag Kira, get that situated right now.
Hashtag disappointment.
All right, but you got a story for the people. Kira, what is going on?
Yeah. So, for corporate America, a divided government is a blessing, as we all know. A dysfunctional legislator will struggle to pass laws raising corporate taxes or cracking down on corporate malfeasance. But just as importantly, by pushing the narrative that no progressives could ever get through a Republican-controlled Senate, which is a lot of what we're hearing when it comes to these cabinet positions. People are saying, well, even if Biden wanted to put more progressive people into this cabinet, no, Republican Senate would actually allow that to happen. And so basically that's giving, an opportunity to these consensus picks for powerful cabinet posts and regulatory jobs. And in reality, corporate executives and lobbyists are only consensus cabinet picks among fellow CEOs and corporate lawyers by a staggering 2-to-1 margin, including among Republican voters. They say that basically all voters say that Biden should not be hiring big business executives to run his government if democracy means anything in this country, which I would argue it does not. Biden cannot pick a corporate cabinet if it does, though, is what the authors of this particular article in The Guardian that I found today say. These authors actually claim it's perhaps the one issue in which Americans are united, which I actually beg to differ on. I think that there is a large list of many issues the majority of Americans agree upon, but that was in another story on another day, a couple of weeks ago. So anyway, as long as Biden resists the pressure to sell his executive branch out to the highest bidder, there's still plenty he can actually do to improve average people's lives without trying to appease Mitch McConnell, which we know, again, is very futile. Likewise, corporate America might want you to think that a Republican Senate means that any hope of tackling big businesses' abuses and thus improving working conditions, cleaning air and drinking water, and granting Americans a life of economic dignity is now gone. These fatalists ask how exactly Biden is supposed to get these policies past McConnell, failing to mention that Biden actually doesn't need to. So there was a Biden-Sanders unity task force that provided basically a roadmap of at least 277 actions, broadly popular within both wings of the Democratic Party, the extreme centrist wing and the progressive wing, which Biden could take on day one of his administration. And he doesn't even need McConnell's Senate to help them out. 48 of the policies, 17% of them alone were rollbacks of the Trump era. And that's low hanging fruit, in my opinion. And if those rollbacks don't occur, then I think that there's something really, really, really wrong. But here are a handful of the things that I found that I cherry picked from a massive list. And you can actually find this list inside of this opinion piece of in The Guardian through a link. But there were 59 policies inside of the Department of Homeland Security that could be shifted, including ending workplace raids by immigration enforcement agencies and sanction employers, not workers, for immigration law violations. There were 56 policies inside of the Department of Justice. Biden's Justice Department can prosecute big oil companies or seek breakups of corporate monopolies. 37 policies inside of the Executive Office of the President, where they could enforce the Mental Health Parity and Addiction Equity Act, which generally prohibits health insurance plans from offering less favorable limits on mental health care. And then Department of Education, 34 different policies. Pause monthly billing and stop. This one was a big deal. Pausing monthly billing and stop interest from accruing on federal student loans for debtors earning less than $25,000, and cap payments at 5% of discretionary income for those earning above $25,000, and automatically forgive any outstanding federal student debt after 20 years. Department of Labor, 26 policies could actually be pushed through. Biden's Labor Department can enforce OSHA rules and crack down on wage theft. like never before, making sure people's hard-earned wages actually make it into their pockets. Department of State, 21 different policies, making climate a diplomatic priority and calling a global forum to commit major emitting nations to ambitious emission reductions and long-term decarbonization strategies with the frame of green rebuilding from COVID-19. Department of Energy, there are 17 different policies, set technology neutral standards that will eliminate carbon pollution from power plants by 2035, ensure that the Department of Energy funded innovations are manufactured in the United States. Department of Agriculture, 15 different policies, including collect and publish data on how much USDA funding reaches farmers of color, and explore the reform USDA credentialing process that prohibits farmers of color from passing on their property. HUD, the Housing and Urban Development, there are 13 different policies, supporting policies which allow homeowners and gentrifying areas to stay in their homes if they so choose. Environmental Protection Agency, 13 different policies, launching a federal Buy Clean program by 2022 that mandates government procurement of clean energy and industrial products with high labor standards. Biden's Treasury Department could implement financial regulations to impede investments in the fossil fuel industry and reallocate funds to tackle COVID-19 and provide support to the most harmed Americans. His IRS could focus on ensuring that rich people pay their fair share instead of auditing poor Americans making mistakes on their taxes. The Federal Reserve could even expand walls between investment and commercial banking functions as created by Dodd-Frank. So you see, we don't really need the Senate to be creating or to be taking actions that the large majority of Americans actually agree on. And so, you know, what I think is awesome is we have this document that basically roadmaps all of these things that Biden's administration could do, which gives us, you know, in the media, especially, an opportunity to really watch this administration and see, you know, where their commitments actually lie. And I think that this is a great place to start from.
I just want to say that I want to read out from chat. We have a really good comment from Jeremy Chase, which I think is like perfect in so many different ways. Obama placed Uber, Amazon, Lyft, and Airbnb executives in his transition team. I thought that was really funny because most of them are transition style companies. So I thought that was spot on. One of the funniest choices Biden's made. But yeah, so to your point, Kira, there is a roadmap. I think that, even more practically speaking, there has been for quite a while, but the rules for rulers as they are, they have a very set power structure right now. If Trump won the election, corporations would win, Americans would lose. If Biden wins, corporations win, Americans will lose. And I am very set on I would put money on this because it seems very obvious to me that they're gonna not even that roadmap was just there to pretend to do something. It was that entire thing that transition team did was in lieu of anything else. The only thing that I'll be surprised, like here's what I would say: if there's a point of something happening where I would go, okay, I'm actually gonna look into this and say what they're doing. Obviously, we're gonna do that regardless. It's does Bernie get into labor secretary? Do I think that that's going to make all the difference in the world?
No.
No, I don't. But it'll be an interesting thing because if they put Biden in, that at least means optically they're trying to reach out for progressives to get on their side. And if they don't even do that, I can't imagine that they're going to be doing any of these policies.
Yeah. Real quick. E. Heller mentions, I think you meant this, Daniel, you said Obama, but meant Biden. Actually,
for what?
For the transition team. Cause I think.
No, I think I meant like all the way back to Obama. Okay. Whatever, however I said it was correct in the right context. How's that?
Wow. I guess the DNC is really influential. Has Daniel sold out to the Democratic establishment and corporate?
Too much TV now.
You know what? Great. Now Daniel's going to have his own show on the Peacock app. You're going to be there with Sam Cedar and everybody else. Great.
Oh, no. Don't say Sam Cedar and me together. No, don't do that.
But no.
We have a quick story on that really quick. Because apparently Sam Cedar's people on their own Discord really don't like us, apparently.
Really did
You told me that.
Oh yeah, that's right. See,
That's
I'm
That's a wrap.
I'm getting
Yeah.
dementia. See, I'm getting senile. Everything's new to me now. So there we
It has
go.
some short-term memory issues here.
I think this is it. I think listening to Joe Biden speak so many times, I finally caught the Joe-mentia disease. But real quick,
It's
just
transmissible through TV.
transmissional through TV. Yeah. Which come on, Jack, you know the thing. But this is something that's really this is really a big problem with the Biden administration because again, it's corporate owned and it's owned by the top 1%. And more importantly, and this is very sad, nothing's going to fundamentally change. This whole idea, especially with this idea floating around that somehow Bernie Sanders is going to be part of the Biden administration or Elizabeth Warren's going to be part of the Biden administration. They're not. Here's the thing. Bernie Sanders has a better chance of being part of the Biden administration than Warren because Warren waited to the last minute to even get involved.
Yeah,
or even choose a
Warren's
side.
like a who? Oh, the snake lady. Okay,
Yeah, the
my
snake
bad.
lady.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, again, it's an upside down world we're living in, and the thing is there's going to be a breaking point where progressives and independents are seeing that the Democrats aren't doing anything for us. Nancy Pelosi just won her election seat to be reelected as the Speaker of the House for the Democratic Party. Do you really think old Nancy with the $25,000 refrigerator and the fancy ice cream is going to do anything for working class people? No. And listen, around 70 million people voted for Donald Trump. Those voters aren't going anywhere. And Biden barely won this election. Yeah, he won the Electoral College and the popular vote for the time being. Again, we live in a system where there's no election integrity and there's plenty of election fraud that's happening. But we're going to be having the same conversation during the midterm and in 2024, where, dare I say it, somebody worse than Donald Trump is going to raise their head and get involved in this political process. And the Democrats are going to be using fear tactics. I'm not going to hold my damn nose anymore and vote for the lesser of two evils. I voted for third party in 2016. I voted third party in 2020, and I'm going to do it again. We need a move for People's Party, and we need to do it now, because if we don't, we're going to have the same conversation, and I'm tired of having this conversation. I've reached my breaking point, and with the insufferable brunch crowd, where are you at? Hold his feet to the fire. Oh, that's right, because even Cenk Uygur made a tweet about how he's surprised that Biden isn't doing this or that.
Cenk's like, wait, my choices were wrong?
What were you expecting? What were you expecting? You're dealing with somebody who doesn't like you. A bunch of idiots through and through. Well, go ahead, Daniel. What's the final word?
Final word on this. Just a little thing to think about.
Right.
Lesser of two evils. The entire idea of following this path is taking a step-by-step drop into a pool of lava. Every choice you make is the only one available, because you can either take one step down or two step down. So you probably should take that one step down, except you're still always going to end up burnt. Whereas we need to start realizing as a people that we can still walk up.
Yep. So.
Yeah. Well, and one more thing. I'm going to steal the last word.
Okay.
Stole my breath.
Let's
there you go.
Put it in my pocket. And I think with this roadmap in front of us, seeing that there is actually things that the Democrats could do that would, create better lives for Americans. I think it's really vital that they do them, because, we have midterm elections are right around the corner already again. And, in 2024, God forbid, something worse, smarter, and more malicious than Trump get on the ticket, because I feel like this is the Democrats' chance to really do something. And I really honestly do hope they do take their opportunity. I just really I'm not going to hold my breath.
Right. All right. Before we move to our next story, I'm going to story zero this one because the last story is actually very important.
Okay.
So real quick, we got 2 super chats. First, I'm going to read the YouTube super chat from Dustin Price, $5 YouTube super chat. Lesser evilism doesn't work if you're not afraid. Look, I'm not afraid. We got to break away from the two-party system. Here's for the people in the back. The DNC and RNC establishment are friends with each other. They're owned by the extreme centrists, lobby groups, the top 1%, corporate owners, big bankers, Wall Street executives. They're the ones who control everything. They control the RNC and DNC and corporate media. And we got to break away from that. Vote third party. We need to move for People's Party. Phase. We've got also a
really quick, because I can also say stuff as well. By the way, clip something I said that Sam Cedar wouldn't like and throw it on his Discord pages. I just want to add in. Isn't it interesting that like all like the 500,000 to 1 million single person, mainly or small group YouTubers out there that are like center left are all like radio show comedians that aren't that comedic?
Oh. Come on, man. You're being mean.
I'm not a comedian, but I still think I'm funnier.
Okay, there we go.
Sometimes when I don't try.
We also got a $10 Streamlab super chat. Now,
Hey.
here's the thing about Streamlabs. If you donate to us on Streamlabs, it helps us out more because YouTube super chats, YouTube takes 30%.
We get 25% more for the same amount of money on the chat link in the description.
Right. So, FaZe, did this person, who is it? And they sent us $10.
It's from Dustin Price, and they just sent $10.
And I'm gonna read because I think we want to read some chat. I'm gonna read the last chat that he wrote in Chattiful. Y'all doing great today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the support.
I'm gonna story zero this one. Story zero, for those who don't know, I'm just gonna basically read through it, and we're gonna
basically gonna like do this lightning round.
So, you know the feeling of when you're walking down the street and you run into a brick wall and say, well, how'd that get there?
Lesser evil.
Yeah, lesser evils. Well, here's the thing. Like, look, we're gonna walk into a brick wall. You can't yell at the brick wall.
Stop drinking.
Yeah, one, you do got to stop drinking.
Man, I should take off these blinding goggles.
Yeah, because here's what's happening.
Right.
Today feels like a betrayal. Sunrise Movement blasts Biden pick of big oil-backed Cedric Richmond for key post. So see, when Donald Trump put like big oil executives in his administration, everyone was like, oh, Trump, you're an evil person. How could you do this?
Yeah.
And then Biden, well, everyone's shocked that he did it. Big betrayal. The guy is for fracking. The guy was for big oil and large fossil fuel industries from the very beginning, from his 30 plus years in politics. Biden has proudly said that he'd prostitute himself to corporations way, way back in the day. You want to know why student debt is why it is right now? It's because in 2005, Biden worked with the credit card corporations to make student debt the unforgivable debt that it is now. So, climate campaign, and again, to all the progressives and independent organizations that rallied with Biden, was that fear campaign and lesser two evilism really worth it? Was it really worth it just falling for that fear trap? Because look, I understand. I don't want Trump to get reelected. I didn't want him to get elected in 2016. But sadly, because of Democratic pragmatism and them always being pragmatic all the time, we're always going to end up with the same crap. How do you think we got Donald Trump in the first place? It's because of Biden and his wonderful friends in Congress who created this neoliberal economic system that we're in. So climate campaigners who rally behind President-elect Joe Biden because President Donald Trump spent his first term serving corporate polluters were outraged Tuesday by reporting that Democratic Louisiana Congressman Cedric Richmond, who was ranked in vast campaign contributions from the fossil fuel industry, is joining the incoming administration. In a statement Tuesday, Paragash blasted the decision to hire Richmond in the face of calls for Biden to serve as a hashtag climate president and appoint fierce progressives to his cabinet and other key posts in the government. You're living in a fantasy world. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. In the words of Greenpeace USA new Just Recovery agenda released Tuesday, deliver just green and peaceful future we deserve. President-elect Biden ran on a promise to act decisively to combat the climate crisis, signed a pledge not to let his campaign be unduly influenced by fossil fuel corporations or their money, and said leaders of fossil fuel companies would not be involved in this transition, Prakash said. Young people helped deliver him a landslide victory. Oof, a bit of an overstatement there. Powered by historic youth turnout
for them, so
all across the country, with the hopes that those promises would extend to keeping fossil fuel corruption out of his administration. There's a word for that. Suckers. You think the DNC is going to listen to you? No, the DNC establishment is just as corrupt as the RNC establishment. Now, to all these progressive groups and climate organizations that are trying to stop climate, that are trying to do something about climate change, stop going to the Democratic Party. They don't like you. They want the same kind of corporate donations that the RNC is getting. Because at the end of the day, the Democratic Party is exactly the same as the Republican Party. The only fundamental difference is that the Democrats say things we want to hear and they're a little bit more polite. They have a wonderful mask on that makes everyone think that the Democrats are the good guys. No. They're really good liars, and they're really weak against standing up against not only the RNC, but corporations as well. You're living in a fantasy world, and the very fact that you all are surprised by Biden says a lot about, you know, your foresight and understanding how this game is played. Me, I saw this coming a mile away. You really think progressives and independents are going to be part of the Biden administration and do something about climate change? I mean, what? Even Trump's laughing at you because the same people who are part of Trump's administration are me part of Biden's administration. You got to see through the madness. This is why we need third parties. This is why we got to break away from the two-party system. We need a movement for a people's party, and this needs to happen now. If we don't do this now, we're not going to have a planet. And it looks like under a Biden administration who proudly said, I'm going to listen to the scientists. Yeah, that was all talk. It was all hot air. And there's a good chance that Biden forgot all about it. With that being said, go ahead.
I was going to say, and that's how you take a 10-minute story and shrink it into a 10-minute story.
No, I could have made this one a solid 20-minute story, you guys. Like I usually do. Of course, I did a bunch of research on this.
Yeah, no, it's kids like, we're going to shorten the story. By that, I mean, I'm going to talk the regular amount and you guys don't.
All right. Well, look, I was just trying, I don't know. I just kind of had to go on a rant. There we go. But with that being said, we actually got to.
I mean, I'm just going to point out the irony of like, they want him to be the liaison between business and community climate change activists. And then you talk to his actual constituents and they're like, we had this fight against this business for 3 years and he never came around once. It's like, oh, I bet he's going to be really good at that job.
I think that's called Barack Obama's disease, when you promise union organizers you're going to put on your shoes and help walk with them, and then you never do.
That was never going to happen.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and move on.
Get a job by not doing the thing that your job is. Yeah. No, that's all.
All right. So
also, real quick before we move on.
What the fuck? Wait, what?
Okay, wait, let's just say. Okay, wait, guys, in the last 12 minutes, who has taken up 85% of the air and then yells at me for trying to talk about our great audience? I'll wait in the chat for you guys to say something. But while you guys are doing your very objective voting, I just wanted to point out we got some great comedy in the chat. If you haven't noticed, we got people saying things, but then saying things in a way that counteracts the things that they're saying. We got people laughing at them. We got a great audience today. I'm so sorry, Kit, that I called out the audience and gave them some air. I thought there was a little too much of a vacuum.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
I relinquished the time.
This is what happens when I go on my rants and then I go.
Well, this is what happens when you say no one else can go on a rant and then go on a rant and then go, why are you talking? I said we're talking.
I know. And I swore to, and I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, Kit just like that entire story.
I know. Here.
No, Kit's already hit his quota. He's breaking it again. There's no stopping him.
Oh, well. Okay. So we actually got a really important story about Biden and Trump. Daniel, you got a story for the people, and so does Kira. So it's a back-to-back story.
Am I allowed to talk about this story?
I think so, yeah. Well, I think you got to break people's hearts, though, because I think people were hoping Biden was going to do something.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll just say, because I don't want to say too much. I don't want to speak more than 5% on this. We got a video. Let's play it.
Joe Biden and his wishes that his administration be forward-looking and not be looking back at Donald Trump, not be looking at investigations from his Justice Department. What exactly is he talking about, and what is his posture toward all the things that could be investigated about Donald Trump?
Well, Willie, one of the questions facing President-elect Biden is how he handles this pressure from within his own party to investigate President Trump, members of his administration, some of his policies. And what we're told is that privately, Biden has told aides that he is very wary of a flurry of investigations into President Trump, that he feels like it will be divisive at a time when he's trying to unify the country. And also, he just doesn't want every day of his presidency to be about Donald Trump. And he would really like to, as one advisor told us, just move on. At the same time, he's saying that, and his aides are saying that he wants an independent Justice Department, that he wants to reestablish that typical boundary that's been there between the White House and the Justice Department. And that may wind up being how he threads this needle, saying that he's not going to tell his attorney general who to investigate or who not to investigate. And so if he's not doing that, then he has no control over whether or not there are investigations into Trump. But Democrats, they really have wanted investigations into the president's taxes, into obstruction of justice.
Oh, boy.
So I just wanted to say, first of all, that we're going to have to sue her if she stole our background. I mean, through and through, there's no question. You saw also Brick tried to get away by slightly changing 100% the color.
100% real.
Yeah, definitely.
I was going to say, and that Brick background is totally real.
So, yeah, so beyond the obvious that she took that. Here's the thing. Biden is determined to not serve what his own base wants because hey, we need to put Trump in prison. That's sort of a thing that we want. Been the sort of corner case of Trump being in office is that he needs to go to jail. And what's Biden do? No, it's okay. He doesn't need to go to jail because if we put him to jail, it sets a precedent for me to go to jail. Oh, I wouldn't want that to happen. So this is Biden doing the thing that gets done because he doesn't want the thing that gets done to him when he does the thing. Kira, you have a lot more information on this as well, though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was looking at another story. Daniel and I sort of raced to this story today when we were choosing our stories. And basically it's they in the article that I looked at from, I think it was Vanity, they literally use the exact same the exact same rhetoric around it, looking forward, not back, right? Which, I mean, I didn't realize that you could commit crimes in the future, but apparently you can. And because Trump committed his crimes in the past, we're not going to do anything about it. But this has basically been a precedent that has been set for decades and decades and decades, and so I don't think, again, it's just like the cabinet picks, right? It's nothing that any of us are really horribly surprised about. But I think a lot of people might actually be surprised with this because Trump was a bit original in a lot of ways, in a lot of the crime that he did commit, because there's just so much material when it comes to Donald Trump to work with to actually prosecute him and put him behind bars. For example, in December of last year, he became the third president in history to face removal by the Senate. And the vote ran along party lines. The charges were abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. Citing Trump's alleged use of government resources to garner election assistance from Ukraine. What's more, Trump's tax returns revealed by the New York Times investigations this year that we talked about on this show showed he appears to have set up gambits to pass money along to his children tax-free. His company deducted almost $750,000 in consulting fees. And then Ivanka Trump, oh, look at that coincidence, had the exact same amount paid to her bank account, even as she was an employee to Trump's company. And that's actually illegal to be getting consulting fees and being employed by the company. Trump wrote off hush money payments as business expenses, not to mention the hush money payments inside of his campaign to Stormy Daniels, upwards of around about $130,000, who he actually has a co-conspirator in jail for right now. Beyond his taxes, it appears he provided insurers and banks with false statements about his financial position in order to receive lower premiums and interest rates on loans. And in certain circumstances, that would be illegal. Over 1,000 former federal prosecutors stated that if Trump were not president, His conduct, as described by Mueller, would result in multiple felony charges for obstruction of justice during the Russia probe. And an investigation was opened into the Trump campaign's inauguration spending as well. Not to mention how he has enriched himself in many ways through his companies with the office of the presidency. So, like I said, there's a lot of material here to work with. And I think that that's why people might actually be surprised by this decision to look forward and not backward. And, the other thing that kind of, is really aggravating is that if the roles were reversed, I think that we know that there's no doubt that what Trump would do. He would definitely go after a Biden administration that, did a bunch of illegal acts. And in fact, I think it was just a month or so ago that he requested investigations that were actually unfounded against Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. It is interesting that Democrats in general can just get punched in the face over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And then they just do nothing in return. Like, this is the resistance party. This is the most pathetic excuse for a resistance that I have ever seen in my life. It's embarrassing. And it's really disheartening that Biden has chosen to go in this direction. Another thing that I found really kind of funny in this article was them talking about basically how Biden doesn't want his whole presidency to be all about Trump. And it's just such a silly reason or excuse to not be prosecuting criminals. Right. Certainly it sets a precedent for, people in power going forward to be above the law. And that is massively problematic. It always has been. And we see this precedent being set once again in one of the most egregious ways that I can imagine. Maybe not that I can imagine. We did have previous administrations do torture and illegal drone strikes and stuff like that. It's surprising, I guess, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I just quickly want to end on that. It's like they're not fundamentally all that different. I feel like Biden probably would really like to have, as a presidency, touching women a bit too much in places they don't want, a thing that he has a good set track record of already saying you can't do that, can't go after that person because we're too rich to go to jail, we're too big to fail, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Joe Biden is, I think Kira laid it all out really well. Biden is exactly what everyone before him is. Mm-hmm. They're just following the same precedent of don't upset the apple cart. Doesn't matter if we got everyone whipped into a frenzy in our base and outside our base to some degree for the last 4 years, saying anything Trump did had to be Russian in base. Anything he did had to be wrong. Anything he did had to be corrupt. They set this house of cards up, and now that they have that had a very specific way of dealing with, put him in jail, hold him accountable, don't let the corruption happen. But now that power has swung back into the right hands, although they are very much right hands, it's okay. We're okay. We don't got to do anything. We'll just let it go. Remember what you know what's really funny? Mm-hmm. What Biden said is what Obama said about Bush. Obama said, I don't want to dwell on the past. I don't want to focus on Bush for the rest of my term. We're going to let it go. I know that he committed war crimes. I know that he killed hundreds of thousands of civilians on fake pretenses. Mm-hmm. We everything that happened with Katrina. But I might do those things as well. So
Democratic voters and Republican voters, here's something that's going to make a lot of you uncomfortable. And this is something you got to deal with. Number one, like to Daniel and Kira's point, Obama never held the Bush administration accountable. right? But then, hey, Republican voters, remember when Trump was saying, I'm gonna lock up Hillary, I'm gonna do this and do that? He never held the Obama administration accountable. It's all one big club, and you ain't in it. And so people who are holding on to hope, a lot of these protesters and activists who are holding on to hope that Trump is going to go to jail or be held accountable for his crimes, yeah, good luck with that. And I'm actually going to quote somebody in the live stream chat, Pat Bradigan, saying, prosecuting Trump might set a precedent that someone responsible for or the head of government or corporations or financial institutions get prosecuted. And that's not going to happen. They don't want that to happen. And a lot of these politicians who have been president have done a lot of horrible things. And any other country would have held them accountable. But in our country, they can get away with it. And why? Because they're owned by the extreme centrists, the people who think they can get away with this crap. And more importantly, they own the system. They own the courts. They own the media. Do you see MSNBC holding Obama accountable for his lack of attention to Flint, Michigan, and so many other communities that are dealing with lead in their water? Do you see corporate media holding Trump accountable for his continuation of wars? Granted, we didn't get into any new wars, but he still kept us in Iraq, Afghanistan, and everywhere else. You would think we'd be out of there by now. And of course, there's a lot of talk about us leaving Iraq and Afghanistan, but guess what? We're still going to be there. And once Biden's get into office, I wonder what new campaign theater we're going to get into. Are we going to go into Iran? Are we going to go anywhere else across the world? Because again, it's a sick system, and holding on to hope that somehow Trump's going to go to jail. What? Even Cenk Uygur was tweeted out saying, "I'm surprised that this is happening. The Democrats are weak."
Cenk is constantly surprised.
Cenk. Why are you surprised? I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
Everyone knows it. We've all been talking about it. The Democrats lack a backbone. We need a moving for People's Party, and I do hope they have what it takes to build effective infrastructure to stand up to this two-party system.
Yeah, I would just add to all this that it's funny. All of this is so funny. What we're really seeing is an oligarchy acting itself out.
Yep.
We see the rich and powerful take actions that kill people. That's fine. You kill someone, not so fine. Although with the police departments these days, you're pretty safe to not get caught. It's just fascinating, the world we live in, where these parties, the Democratic Party can for 4 years get everyone rabid about the idea of having Trump see the inside of a jail cell and then not even think, oh, right, that might backfire on us because we're not going to do it, because we don't want to do it, because we don't care to do it, because it might affect us.
Kira, any other final comments?
Yeah, I think my only other real thought on any of this, that, just being aware of the chat and listening to y'all, and remembering, how Trump had talked about locking Hillary up and his disdain for Obama and the fact that he didn't do anything about any of the crimes that Obama committed during his presidency. I would assert that it definitely is more of a systematic administrative thing than it is the actual, choice necessarily of the president, because I would assert that Trump, if he had the opportunity, would take that on. But I think the system actually doesn't allow for that to happen. So yeah. Just some thoughts, and that's totally speculative, and so not based in any fact that I found. It's just thinking upon some of the things that I'm reading and listening to y'all.
Exactly, and again, what were the vote blue no matter who crowded? What were you expecting? Biden to do his job? Biden to actually care or follow through? And remember, there was a whole hype about the impeachment. Remember that?
Yeah.
Well,
that's
here's
all
the thing.
Talked about.
You know what you could have gotten Biden on? Not Biden, but Trump on? The emoluments clause. But, oh, wait. Democratic lawmakers fall into that same thing, too. The Democrats were never going to follow through. Yeah, it passed in the House. You got, the articles of impeachment. But the Senate? You really think the Senate and Senate Democrats were also going to follow through? No. That's not the kind of game we're playing here. We're living in a sick system where, again, the top 1% control everything. and everyone else is just a victim of it. It's one big club. You ain't in it. What's for brunch? So real quick, we actually got a YouTube super chat as well. I want to read it before we end our show. Max D, $5 YouTube super chat. 40 years of the Reagan administration with no end in sight. It's hard not to be a bit sad. At least there's the economic collapse to look forward to.
That was a great innuendo.
Yeah.
I missed it. Hold on. Now I'm scrolling back to read it.
Okay, let's see. Let's all wait collectively for Kira to get this.
All right.
Oh, don't do that, please, because it'll probably be over my head.
You actually fit right into that.
Did I feed right? Okay, so that I did get the innuendo.
I would for those of you, because I clearly have I have very hard jokes that go over. It's not just Kira. It's like 80% of the people. Like I have such dry humor, and I usually don't even intend it. That like no one gets it because you'd have to know like 5 unknown things. But in this case, it's because his name is Max D.
Yep.
That's it.
So there we go. So good old Max D. Thank you so much for a $5 YouTube super chat.
By the way, fantastic super chat. I don't mean to take away from the very important point you were trying to make by making fun of your name. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So well done. Well done. Well
Thank
done.
you.
We have fun here at Hard Lens Media. I want to thank my co-host, the wonderful, incredible Kira McCown for joining us. We have Daniel Lupker manning with being my co-host. We got our tech priest, Engine Seer, FaZe manning the board. Shout out to the wonderful, incredible Mona Carmona for moderating the live stream chat. And also, we have a Patreon show in just a little bit. We have fun on the Patreon show.
Yeah. Do we have anything we want to tease that we're talking about so that people can go, hey, I'd like to spend $1 to hear what you guys are saying? Well, anyone? I mean, that's the purpose of what we say, these to give previews.
Well, we're actually doing some work here.
There are things we could talk about that I think people would pay.
Yes,
more
like
than
Kira, what are you thinking? What topics are you thinking?
everything that I think of gets like way too personal. So
see, there you go. That's perfect
thoughts?
enough, guys. It's going to be a super personal Kira show that we're going to be doing.
All
Definitely, and we're not going to meander to another topic. We never do that. It's the patron show. It's too fun.
And plus, we could swear on the Patreon show. Apologies for swearing. When I go on my rants, I usually get crazy. So there we go.
So there you go, everyone. Kira's going to get super personal. Kit's going to get crazy. I'm going to stay right about where I'm at.
Exactly. So with that being said.
So totally normal, totally the same.
Totally the
as
same.
The regular show.
Nothing's going to fundamentally change, folks.
I'm just going to make jokes that no one gets.
Tune into the Patreon show. Being a Patreon show is in the link in the description box below. We're only asking for $1.
Just go in here's what you do. I'm going to make it real easy for everyone. You go in the description.
Yep.
And you click the X button right here, and then you go into the description, and you will notice in the description that first of all, we always put all the notes that we do for every show. We don't say that enough, but we do. Mm-hmm. Then there's a bunch of wonderful links. There's a link that says support us on Patreon. Then there's the URL. You click that, and then you get your card out, and you go, I'm going to help these people out.
There we go. Support independent media. We are Chicago's fastest growing progressive independent media network. With that being said, I'm Kit Cabello. Peace to you guys, and let us all do what we can to build a better future.